So now the Russian tankers are hiding out in the woods, the satellite images, the drone strikes. Biden wants Venezuelan oil. All of a sudden, Juan Guaido is not the president of Venezuela. But the longer Maduro stays in there, the more he does become a dictator. Glenn Greenwald dives into the bioweapons lab line. There are bioweapon research labs in Ukraine, and the U.S. government is worried about the Russians getting a hold of these biological research labs because of the possibility of the shit that's in these labs could be turned into weapons. And so now people are saying, well, what do you mean there's weapons in there? Glenn Greenwald makes a good argument. You should check it out. And also, Putin's talking about going into Moldova. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, 23 facts. 23 facts. This is like a prequel. Did 21, 22, 24, which I called 22, and now I'm doing 23 facts about the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, you have all these vineyards, you have all these impressive churches and ancient castles. They got castles in the Ukraine. The country's got a space rocket industry under the management of the Space Agency of Ukraine. So that's incredible, right? The Yuzhno-E design office created the Zenit 3SL carrier rocket and the first stage core of the Antares rocket. There's only 86.3 men for every 100 women in Ukraine. This is the sixth lowest men to women ratio in the world, with the average ratio being 101.8 men for every 100 women. Ukraine has large mineral resources, and half of the known deposits are now being exploited. According to the 2009 USGS statistics, Ukraine is included in the top 10 producers for iron ore, manganese, titanium, graphite, and uranium. Western Siberia has a large Ukrainian population because of the wicked shit Joseph Stalin did to the Ukrainians in the 1920s and 30s. So that means Ukraine actually has a similar pretense to invade Russia via Western Siberia so they could go save the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians living in Western Siberia can live freely Ukrainian. Although Ukraine produces gas, it still needs to import most of its fuel needs from Russia and Turkmenistan. Ukraine's pipelines transport Russia's gas to the European Union. Ukraine's pipelines transport Russia's gas to the European Union. Ukraine maintains independence when it comes to the supply of electricity. This is thanks to the hydroelectric and nuclear power plants that they got. They got nuclear power plants and hydroelectricity. They have uranium, iron ore, manganese, titanium, graphite. It has excess capacity of electricity. Ukraine exports its electricity to Russia and other Eastern European countries. So Ukraine sells Russia electricity. Russia sells Ukraine natural gas. Ukraine lets Russia use their pipelines. Russia supplying natural gas to Europe through the pipelines of the Ukraine. What a wonderful, fantastic, symbiotic, neighborly relationship. See, when you have democratic countries who engage in trade that promotes peace and love and understanding from 1657 to 1686 Russia, the Cossacks, Poland, the Ottoman Empire, the Crimea Khanate fought each other for dominance over Ukraine. The period is known as the Ruin, and ended with the Treaty of Perpetual Peace between Russia and Poland. The country's name, the Ukraine, is thought to come from the ancient Slavic term for borderland. Oh, what, you're going to go to the borderland? You're going to the Ukraine. It was referred to as the Ukraine until independence, when it was until they declared independence in 1991. Now it's not politically correct. You're not allowed to call Ukraine the Ukraine, which I think is stupid and dumb. And you know what? I like the Ukraine better. Ukraine by itself sounds strong, right? But the Ukraine, my God, Russians, at least through media, they seem like they're pretty tough, right? Tough as nails. But the Ukrainians, you Russians can't stand up to the Ukrainians. Russians might be tough as nails, but the Ukrainians, they could chew fucking gravel. They chew gravel like it's bubble gum. The Ukraine, you can't fuck with the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians who live in the Ukraine, you can't fuck with the Ukraine. Russia and Austria showed very little interest in the Ukraine. In the 1800s, the country was predominantly rural. The situation changed as Ukrainian modernization and urbanization expanded. The Mongolians invaded in the 13th century. 1240, Bantu destroyed Kiev. They occupied much of Eastern Europe and pushed westward towards the Atlantic Ocean. When Ogedai Khan, son of Genghis Khan, died, they returned to their homeland and spared the rest of the continent. Vaishivanka. The national costume for the Ukrainian people is the Vishivanka. I kind of just like saying Vishivanka. Did you get your Vishivanka? You got to put your Vishivanka on today. Why? We're greeting people at the airport. What are Vishivankas? It's decorated with ornamental, hand-woven embroidery, floral detail. It's just something the Ukrainians wear, okay? It's a Vishivanka, motherfucker. That's what it is. What's a Vishivanka? I'm not going to try to goddamn describe it. Google it. It's more of a picture kind of idea. Not one that should be spoken verbally. Unless you're just saying... Vishivanka is just like Szechuan sauce. It's just fun to say. Makes me want to wear a Vishivanka while eating some chicken nuggets dipped in Szechuan sauce. I can't have this chicken nuggets and Szechuan sauce without my Vishivanka. I have to wear my Vishivanka when I eat my chicken nuggets. It's just Szechuan. Orthodox Christianity dominates Ukraine and has a big influence on culture. According to the 2021 study by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, 82% of the population identifies religious, 7% are atheist, and 11% didn't have a definite answer. Are you religious or not? Yes, 82%. 82% of Ukrainians said they are very religious, extremely religious, too fucking religious, overly Eastern Orthodoxly fucking Christian in an Eastern Orthodox way. Too, just religious, Christy ass motherfuckers. Ukrainians, 82% of the Ukrainians are some Christy ass motherfuckers. 7% of them are atheists. So, 7% of the Ukrainians actually know what the fuck is going on. And 11%, well, they didn't understand the question. Are you a religious person? Excuse me? So it's a yes or no, answer. Just, are you a religious person? Yeah. What? Give me a definite answer. Yep. 11% did not have an... Anyways, 7% atheist, 82% religious. And 11% are like, I don't know. Am I religious? I mean, I still go to church and pray every day. I believe in all those fictional fairy tale myths that I was taught as a child. Does that count? No. The Russian Empire collapsed after World War I and was replaced by the Russian Republic under the Bolsheviks. Ukraine became one of the founders of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in 1922. Kiev It is widely regarded as the country's spiritual capital. Pilgrims regularly travel long distances to visit the Sofia Kievska Church and the St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery. Artisan textiles used in traditional Ukrainian weddings. The embroidery depends on the region where the textile came from. Buyers can also choose from different historical motifs, stitching methods, and a wide variety of colors. Thousands of Jews were offered protection by Ukrainian religious leaders during World War II. One of the leaders, Metropolitan Andrei Sheptitsky, was honored in 2013 by the Anti-Defamation League for his humanitarian role. The Jews found refuge in monasteries and Ukrainian homes. Ukraine has one of the lowest population densities, with only 73 individuals per square kilometer. The highest point is at the summit of Mount Hoverla. It rises to the height of 2,061 meters above sea level, or 62 feet. So less than 7,000 feet. We got all these 14,000, and it's less than 7,000. This is part of the Carpathian Mountains and has been a prominent tourist destination since the late 19th century. The 7 major rivers in Ukraine are the Danube, the Dnipro, the Desna, the Pripyat, the Southern Buh, B-U-H. Yes. No duh. Southern Buh. No duh. It's the Southern Buh. Siberian Donets. Donuts. No, Donets. D-O-N-E-T-S. Donets. Siberian. Around 95% of the country's Siverian. Siberian Donets. Around 95% of the country's rivers are part of the drainage basin of the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Now that's a spicy meatball. Ukraine has one of the highest numbers of IT certified professionals behind the US, India, and Russia. This makes it one of the top outsourcing destinations for companies all over the globe. In 2019, it became the biggest IT services exporter in Europe. Around 2/3 of Ukraine's land is covered in black earth. It's a nutrient-rich soil that makes the country one of the most fertile countries in the world. So in terms of natural resources and great land for farming, Ukraine seems to have it all. It's considered the breadbasket of Europe because of its massive agricultural exports. It's the breadbasket of Europe. The Ukraine is feeding Europe. I don't think it's a good idea to turn your back on the hand that feeds you, but maybe that's just... Apparently 16,000 foreign fighters went to Ukraine to fight. Ex-veterans, more. Let's see. UK sent 500 fighters. 3 Russian commanders were killed. It's great news. I've heard like a general or 2 have been killed too. The great thing about being a revolutionary is that you can see injustice anywhere you go. If you tremble with indignation at injustice, then you are a comrade of mine. Ironic. It may seem ironic, but the heart of a true revolutionary is great feelings of love. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Silence is betrayal. Ukraine was chosen as the location for the Yalta Conference, at the famous meeting between Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin, to discuss the European boundaries after World War II. The Yalta Conference. The Yalta Conference was in the Ukraine. Lithuania tried to take the Ukraine over. Poland tried to take the Ukraine over. The Swedish Vikings tried to take the Ukraine over. Russia's trying to take the Ottoman Empire. Everybody goddamn tries to take the Ukraine over. The fucking Greeks and the goddamn Skalati. The Norwegian Vikings, the Danish Vikings, the Swedish Vikings. 2 forced famines. The Bolsheviks, the great communists, because they, love and care about everybody and they want everybody to eat. The communists take over Ukraine and immediately start killing the fuck out of them. In 1921 and 1932, there was 2 forced famines. Then there's this dekulakization where they just sent a bunch of Ukrainians to the gulags just for the fuck of it in Western Siberia. That's why you got a bunch of Ukrainians in Western Siberia, Eastern Siberia, one of the Siberias. The Ukrainian language was rated the third most beautiful language in 1934 behind French and Persian. It's also rated the second most melodious behind Italian. The blue and yellow of Ukraine's flag represent the sky over fields of grain. Ukrainians with sunflowers in their hair. Pueblo, Colorado hated sunflowers. It's illegal to raise sunflowers in Pueblo, Colorado. That desert, sandy ass. They have goat head fucking vines all over the place. So Pueblo may hate sunflowers, but not Ukraine. The Ukraine, they love sunflowers. In fact, the Ukraine is one of the highest exporters of sunflower oil. And you could take that to the bank. Dim's 23 facts about the Ukraine. Peace and love. And everlasting life to Ukraine. Viva la Ukraine. Jesus Ukraine.